Bison Media Zone on WDAY Extra.
All right, we do the Bison Media Zone each and every Wednesday on WDAY Extra. We have some experts in, and I figured, well, who's a good expert I could have? He's not coaching anymore. And I looked at my phone, and no one answered me back.
Yeah, I know.
So then I said, well, let me call up Randy Hedberg. Let me see. And because you got all the time in the world, so what's going on?
Well, thanks for asking me to come in.
Yeah.
I knew I was last on your list. I knew that.
That's no doubt.
So, that's kind of how it works. Yeah. Don't have much going on today. Getting
Today?
ready to-
You
getting
got
ready
some
to
traveling
leave.
coming,
Yeah,
though,
getting
huh?
ready to leave here in a couple days, and hopefully to some better weather.
So, all right, let me first start here with the NFL stuff this weekend. As the quarterback that you are, the Broncos are in a crazy spot where their starter, obviously, Bo Nix gets hurt. Now, Jarrett Stidham's going to have to play, who hasn't played all season long. I remember 2015. I remember that week when Carson Wentz got hurt. And Easton was
Right.
going to come in and play. And Easton had played a little bit of backup, but obviously not started. What is that week like for a coaching staff to get a backup quarterback ready to play?
Well, that was a little different situation. You know, that first game, we were going on the road,
Yep.
which was probably better. Wasn't a championship game like this
No.
is for Stidham. But yeah, Easton was different because he was in his second year with us, and he'd been through a lot
Yep.
of practice and everything, and was and obviously a good talent. And also, it is difficult. We tried to be very cautious with him early. I do remember being in the booth, and TP and I were in the booth, and he threw a ball to the edge of the field on a little out route, and I might have been saying some things in the headset at that time, but he got it over the top. He
Yeah.
laid it in there pretty good,
Yeah.
and got it over the top. But, we did some quarterback run game stuff with him. He's very effective.
Do you simplify things? Did you
Oh, yeah.
simplify things
Yeah,
that week?
I think TP, going into that game, we did. But, we had some really good players in the old line.
Yes.
You had Joe Haig, had some NFL guys
Yes.
on the old line. So that helped a little bit,
Yeah.
going into Indiana State. But, as we went through it, it got a little bit easier for Easton. Obviously, he played 8 games, and we won all 8 of those, and it was pretty remarkable.
Of the 4 quarterbacks left, who do you like? I mean, obviously Nix was part of that. But you have Darnold left. Stafford is just fantastic, I think, to watch at his age, too.
Yeah, I've always liked Matt Stafford. I think
You're a big
really,
Drake May guy, though.
Yeah, I
remember
like Drake May,
when
too.
he was coming out, I know you
those
liked
are my
Drake.
2 favorites. Just because, going back to Matt Stafford, I think he changes arm slots, and he's still an accurate thrower, and he throws with such a great fluid delivery. And I really like Drake May. I like his demeanor. I mean, he just seems so even keel off the field and on the field. And so those would be my 2 favorites going into this last 2 games.
So you mentioned travel because you're heading to go to Colorado, see some family, and then you mentioned to me off air you're heading to Mobile for the first time. You're going to go to the Senior Bowl next
we're
week.
going to go to the Senior Bowl
Awesome.
and watch some practice, and then obviously go to the game. And I'm excited to watch Cole compete.
So here's your floor now to slam dunk on me all the times I asked you about Cole Payton and his ability to play quarterback. So here the floor is yours. You got it. Go.
Well, I remember this conversation, and you were talking about we were looking at Cole trying to get him on the field.
Yes.
Get him on the field, different spots. And I remember telling you, and I mentioned this to Linda Payton too, Cole's mother. I told Dom Izzo that Cole Payton is a quarterback and going to be a quarterback. Yeah. It's interesting. Linda Payton reached out to me during the season and said, "Hey, could you help us? Look at some of these agents that are making a push for Cole." So I said, "Yeah, I'll chip in and check them out." So we vetted some agents, and he settled on Chase Callahan.
Yeah, same one that represents Gray and Cody Mauch as well.
And Easton and Carson and all those guys. And so it worked out that way. But there's a lot of things that go into it because there's quarterback trainers and all this that have a hand in all this. So, so that worked out really well. And I think he's with a good representation and training well.
Yeah.
And I talked to him last week, Cole, I did, and things were going well. His hand, he still has a little pain, after an exercise or throwing exercise, but I think he's going to be ready to go this week.
Which, at this time last year, Randy, if people would have said that he's going to go at the Senior Bowl as a quarterback, who would have believed that? I don't know if anybody would have believed that, right?
I probably wouldn't have believed that either, but the kid is just, as most people know, he's a heck of an athlete.
Yes.
And I told the agent he's as close to Easton Stick in personality as you probably can get.
It's pretty accurate. Yep.
He's a very even-keeled guy. He doesn't get too high. He doesn't get too low. He just lets it flow off his back, and I think that's key to quarterback play. You know, I was talking to Easton last week, and I think this was kind of an interesting comment he made to me. We're talking about quarterback play and college, NFL. He said, people don't realize how hard it is to play quarterback. And I said,
you tell me that all the time.
I said, Easton, I really admire you for saying that because I agree.
Yeah.
And he said it's a tough job, and because we were talking about how Kirk Cousins and him kind of intertwined and mixed in with each other, and he really appreciated Kirk Cousins, and he really thought he was a good mentor for him and learned from him, and that's kind of what we're looking at a little bit.
So when he goes next week, Cole Payton we're talking about, what do you think the scouts, they don't know about him that really may floor him? Because every year, Randy, we've done this, and I've talked to you about it, that a Bison has gone to Mobile and just blown up. Gray is the most recent example. Last year, he turned himself into a first-round pick. What can Cole do down there that can maybe wow everybody?
I think just take as many reps as he can during the time, jump him first in line. That's what I would tell him to do.
That's what Zabel was doing last year.
Yeah, and then his accuracy, I think, is going to be a big part of it. If he can throw with some accuracy and be a leader in the huddle, and I think he's going to have a really good base of offense from what we do with the Bison and what he's learned from the Bison. And then he's working with a young man by the name of Jake Heaps, who works for that agency that he's affiliated with. And Jake I'm sure has been on the board with him, taking him through things that NFL guys will do, and I think Cole will adapt to that very well. So those are things I think that are going to be important for him.
Just his ability to get out of the pocket, can he do that in the NFL?
Well, yeah, I don't think any quarterback's going to be, because it's those edge guys coming off, and we saw that last on Monday night. You know, Miami, Miami's edge pressure was pretty significant on Mendoza, and it took a toll on him. He got hit. He got hit, and he bounced back. And Cole will bounce back. He's 230-some pounds. You know, I mean, he's a big young man and handles himself really well. But yeah, it's going to be tough to get out and run to the edges like he did in college.
Can't do that in the National Football League. There are prospects here. Dane Brugler, I really respect as an NFL draft analyst, has him as a day 2 pick. You believe that?
Yeah, I've heard that. I think Chase Callahan, is the agent for Cole, has mentioned that he's a high draft pick, and it was kind of interesting. I reached out to Easton to try to get some interest by Chase, and Chase got a hold of me. We talked, and it was kind of interesting. He said, we looked at his tape, and we're excited to have him. And they represent Talon Green also, who's from Arkansas, University of Arkansas. And Talon's going to be playing, I can't remember, I think Cole's on the national team, and the American team is Talon's on the American team. So it'll be interesting to see how those guys match up.
I mean, I look at the laundry list of guys that have gone down to Mobile. Carson, I remember vividly. Remember that Carson, I think, Mel Kiper had him at the end of the first round. This is 10 years ago now, when he went down there. And I'll never forget, Randy, he's talking with Jerry Jones when he was down there. My boss was like, boy, look at that. Like, it's a big bleeping deal. He's talking with the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, and he left there as a top 10 pick. That's how big this week can be for guys.
Yeah, it was big. You know, when Cam Miller, I went to the East-West Shrine game last year to watch Cam play down in Dallas, and that was big for Cam. That was a big deal, and the progress he made during the week, I think, is big because all the NFL people are going to be there, and they're going to be at the Senior Bowl, and they're going to be at the East-West game, and also it's a big thing, and you know, and I know Pro Day's big, but this is a big audition also, so I think it's going to be important at that point, you know, to see it.
Bison fans are asking me, and I'll defer to you, about the next quarterback, and Nathan Hayes. You recruited him. Tell us what, for people that don't know about Nathan and what he is to step into this role now for 2026.
Well, you know, I've mentioned this to various people. You know, Nathan came to our summer camp when he was going into a senior year in high school, and I really liked him at that time. And I don't remember the entire scenario as far as recruiting and who we were recruiting at that time. But I do remember reaching out, and Coach Jens and I talked and talking to Tyler at that time, Tyler Roll at that time, and we said, well, who's the next guy? And I remembered driving where I was driving, and we were talking, and I said, I think it's Nathan Hayes. And Matt and Tyler said, well, let's go after him. So I remember the offer, making the offer to Nathan, and Nathan's a very intelligent young man. He's a lot like the rest of the quarterbacks that we've had. We've been very fortunate at NDSU through the years to have some guys that have some talent. He combines some athleticism with a very strong arm. And it's interesting, Christian Dudzik asked me here back in December, or during the football season, we were talking, and he said, who do you think has a better arm, Carson Wentz or Nathan Hayes? Ooh. And I said, that's a tough question. I really didn't answer Christian at that time, but Christian had contact. He obviously played with Carson, and he's watched Nathan. And so Christian had his thoughts. I never asked him what his thoughts were, but Christian asked me that question. I thought it was kind of interesting. Nathan,
it's effortly out of his hand.
He can deliver it, and he's learned to layer the ball now. He can layer it into second levels, and that's a big thing. And Cole's got that trait also. Cole's able to layer some throws, and I think that's going to be big at the next level.
You being the former baseball guy, Hayes could have gone and Division I baseball scholarship. He was that good.
Yeah, baseball's in his family. His two older brothers played baseball in college. And so Nathan had a Kentucky offer, I believe, baseball-wise, and
no
yes, Nathan.
There.
Yes, Nathan. He'll tell you. I said, what'd you hit on the gun? He said, 95. Well, I don't know if that's true, but I believe him because he can fire it, and the ball spins well on him, and you got to be ready when get your head around.
Mentally, that was the thing. I asked you about that, about the offseason, knowing he's the guy. How does that change now for him going into next September?
I had this conversation with him here a couple weeks ago. I said, Nathan, it's your opportunity now. Your mentality is you got to get these guys through the weight room. You got to be the guy leading those drills. You got to be first in line and showing these guys that you can be the leader. Prior, we had Cam for 3 years or whatever it was, and then you have Cole for 12, 13 games.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know if that's a positive, but but they had a lot of reps.
No doubt.
They had a lot of reps, and Nathan's had a lot of reps. When Cole got hurt last year, he filled in and got all those reps last year.
Yes.
And then obviously this year got more reps playing, actually playing.
Well, the Bison played 13 games. I think he played in 10 of them, which is unheard of for a backup quarterback.
Yeah, and he's done well. He'll adapt to it, and I just want his demeanor to be get a little bit more calmness in his demeanor, huddle-wise, and in the pocket. That's the thing I'd work on with Nathan.
You got a couple more minutes here?
Sure.
All right, we're going to break. We come back. We'll finish up Bison Media Zone, and Coach Hedberg's going to solve all that's going on in college football. We're going to do that. Other side of the break. We're back on WDAY Extra after these messages. All right, final segment here on this Wednesday on the Bison Media Zone. Back with the Hall of Famer. Again, it's in your contract. I have to say that every time.
Oh, serious?
Every time.
Okay,
Hall
so
of Famer.
How much money is that worth? Anything. Yeah, right.
Give me a great Jim Kramer story that comes to mind with you guys working together for as long as you did.
Well, I said this to somebody else the other day. It was interesting, because battled Chris wanted to, or Craig wanted to take him to Wyoming.
Yep.
And then he stuck with Chris, and then our
Kleiman
staff
wanted to take him to Manhattan.
So I remember this. We were practicing during that playoff run, with Chris, after Chris was named the header at K-State.
Yep.
I came into and Matt was going to be the next head coach. So that was determined. And I remember walking into the bubble at that time. We were practicing in the bubble. Yeah. It was, would that have been? 19, spring of 19 or January of 19, getting ready for the title game or whatever. Yep. And after the 18th season, correct, yeah. And I remember Jim walking out of the weight room into the bubble, and I'm down on that end, and he had already agreed to stay on staff. Yeah. And I knew that. And I just nodded my head saying thanks. And he nodded back. And that was neat.
All that
that
needed
was
to be
neat.
said,
Yeah,
huh? Yeah.
We didn't say anything.
Yeah.
That's all we did.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that to Jim the other day when I talked to him. That one's tough because Jim was critical. We have these senior talks at the end of the year, and I went through 11 seasons of that, and every one of those guys talks, and the impression that Jim left with them.
The amount of former players, Randy, that have told me that too. It's one of the first names that comes up because he's with them more than you guys are.
Yeah, no question about it. And he's with them in the summer and then obviously in the off season. So they spend a lot of time with them, and now it goes to Napoli, and Napoli's is one of his disciples. You know, so I mean, that's not going to be a big issue.
All right, if I gave you the autonomy to fix what's going on with football, where does the calendar rank to you? How high on the priority list would you fix the college football calendar? Is that a big one, or you got other things to fix?
That's huge.
See, I think it is too.
This portal week was unbelievably bad.
Yeah.
School starts and kids don't have a place. I think there's over 6,000 that entered the portal that don't have a place. They haven't found a school yet. And some of those are Division III, Division II guys, but they're still
looking for a spot.
They're still football players, and you want to help them. I grew up that way. That's where I started, and that's troubling. Here's what I would think, Dom. I've talked to TP about this a little bit. If you could do something where you could start spring practice, let's say they give you 20 practices, and you can start here, but you need to end here, and wherever it's at, June. So you take 10 practices, and then the portal. Then you have a portal. Then you'd have 10 more after the portal. Then you could get these guys, somehow do it. I don't know. I'm just throwing those numbers out.
Maybe
it might not be that way.
Do it like in June and July.
Yeah, do
I like
June,
that. That's what I would do.
June, and but that would impact you a little bit from your summer camps. But you got to do something. This isn't that. Because it's just a bad deal. I don't know what's going to happen. The 9-game thing.
Yeah,
that makes no sense to me at all.
Well, they can't do the 5 for 5 yet because they'll lose the lawsuit on it because there's ongoing litigation on that. That's the next step to get it. Is hey, you can play 9 and keep your year.
Yeah, that makes no sense to me. But anyway, that's
imagine you could play Easton Stick for 9 games in 2014.
Right.
Yeah, I think Jabril Cox.
Or Trey Lance or whomever.
Yes.
It's wild what's going on and what. I don't know who's making those calls. I don't know. It's interesting. I know the FBS is the one that did the 9 games.
Correct.
It wasn't FCS or Division II or anybody. It was FBS people, which you got 134 or whatever it is, 36 might be. So, they're who rules. It's the commissioner of the Big Ten and the commissioner of the SEC. They're the ones that are making the decisions. So anyway.
Twins going to be any good this year?
I'm a little down on the old Twins. I'm not convinced. I don't understand why you trade Louis Varland. No, I really don't. You had him under control through 2031, and you trade him.
Thanks so much for coming by. Safe travels. Have an awesome time in Alabama next week. All right,
we'll
be looking
enjoy
for
it.
you. Randy Hedberg, the legend, joining us here in studio on this week's edition of the Bison Media Zone. We do it each and every Wednesday at 10:30. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next week.